Ben Sigman describes the risk BPs took during the process of saving $12 million worth of EOS tokens from a hacked account. He reminds us that block producers taking action prior to an ECAF ruling are responsible for those actions, and that these members could face severe consequences if they are found to be liable for causing damages to another EOS account. Welcome to EOS Weekly, your number one source of EOS news. Today is Thursday, October 11th, and the title of this week's episode is BP's freeze account saving 2 million EOS. So let's get into this week's update, starting with headlines. Ben Sigman published this article on October 8th of an amazing story of block producers saving a hacked account from having $12 million worth of EOS stolen. First of all, we wanted to give a quick shout out to Crypto Tim, as this is the video that brought this to our attention, so we wanted to give him some credit. But here's what happened. The week of the London Hackathon and the Blockchain Live conference, many of the BPs were in London for these events and were going out to dinner together to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. So this must have been on September 24th, which makes sense when we look at the transactions that we're about to look at. During this dinner, several of these BPs noticed that they suddenly had lost 2 million votes. When they looked into why these votes were lost, they saw that it came from a change on this account here. And when they looked at the recent activity on this account, they saw that someone had just changed the active and owner keys, and right after changing the keys, they unstaked the EOS. Now, we all know it takes 3 days to unstake your tokens, and that you can't transfer tokens out of your account until the end of that 3-day period. But the removal of votes happens immediately when you start this unstaking process. So this is why the block producers noticed the change and had this 3-day window to investigate. What the hacker was able to do, though, immediately, was to transfer any EOS that was already unstaked. And so in this case, in the transaction that you see here, they transferred 23,839 EOS tokens out of this account. They were also able to transfer any non-EOS tokens, such as airdropped dapp tokens, out of the account as well. That's because these types of tokens are not staked in the first place, so they can be transferred immediately by you on your account, or if a hacker comes in, they can do that immediately as well. You can see the hacker transferring some of these dapp tokens out to the Nudex exchange wallet here. They transferred black tokens, IQ, which is the Everpedia token, ADD, EOS DAC, and so on. This went on for several hours. Now, going back to Ben Sigman's article, initially the block producers out at dinner didn't know if this was an actual hacked account or not. They saw the unusual activity, unusual because it is a bit strange to reset keys and then immediately after doing that unstake and start transferring tokens out. But who knows, maybe the account owner had a legit reason for doing this. Now, EOS accounts are anonymous for the most part. So the next problem the BPs faced was figuring out how to contact the account owner to get a line of communication open and determine if this was in fact a hack or not. And this account owner must have been born under a lucky star, because not only did all of this happen while all these BPs were together where they could work on it and investigate it together, but this account was also listed in the EOS 911 groups. So Igor from EOS Rio was able to find the account contact info and contact the account owner. And the BPs were able to verify by talking to this person that this was in fact the account owner, and that the suspicious activity that they were seeing was indeed due to a bad actor who had somehow hacked into the account. We don't have the specifics on how the hacker might have gained access to this account. Eric from EOS Sweden blacklisted the account in order to freeze it and prevent the bad actor from transferring the 2 million EOS out of the account. He was then able to find Modi, the head of the ECAF, who was also in London for all these festivities. And Eric from EOS Sweden was able to tell Modi in person about the hack and the blacklisting. This is similar to what happened earlier this summer right after the mainnet launched, where the BPs first acted to freeze some accounts and then retroactively got approval from ECAF for their actions. Now, besides this being a great story with a lot of drama and heroics and definitely some coincidences, this also is a timely event for the discussions going on around the Constitution. The biggest issue up for debate right now is whether we'll have arbitration at the base protocol layer down here, where the ECAF is the default arbitrator for anyone interacting with the blockchain, or if arbitration should be limited to the application layer up here, where there is no default arbitrator and arbitration only comes into play when users explicitly agree to an arbitrator through a smart or Ricardian contract. When Eric from EOS Sweden blacklisted this account and then got approval from the ECAF, he was acting correctly within the confines of the current version of the Constitution. Or more specifically, he correctly followed the rules of dispute resolution, which is referenced by the Constitution. It's the rules of dispute resolution that specify how things work during an emergency situation like this one. And according to this, freezing the account and then getting permission afterwards is totally fine. Under the second version of the Constitution, the intent of code is law Constitution being proposed by Dan Larimer, it does not reference the rules of dispute resolution at all. It does say that a supermajority may, at their discretion, freeze a contract during an active dispute. But then a little further down it says, at no time shall elected block producers freeze or modify contracts that are operating as intended. So this seems a bit murky. If this Constitution were the ratified one being used today, would it have been okay for EOS Sweden to freeze the account, saving the person 2 million EOS tokens? Does a hacked account imply that a contract isn't behaving as intended? That would be a bit of a stretch. You would think that if we wanted this Constitution to cover the hacked situation, the wording would have to be made more clear. So as we start drafting new versions of the Constitution in these Alliance workshops, we need to be abundantly clear how these hacked account situations should be handled. Now, we're ready to move on to speed round, but before we do, we wanted to mention this tweet here from Cypherglass, because it's related to the same topic of account security. So Rob Finch from Cypherglass is proposing that instead of a 3-day hard-coded staking period, that we enable token holders to specify their own staking period, as long as it's a minimum of 3 days. For example, you could set it to a week or a month or a year if you wanted to. This would give people more time to identify suspicious activity and respond to it, for example, by using their owner key to reset their active key, or to get help from a block producer, or get arbitration involved if they need to. So we definitely recommend checking out his video. The link to the Cypherglass video is in our show notes, and we believe this is a great idea and we're fully behind it. This would put the power and the responsibility into the individual account owner's hands. And assuming people use the feature, it would make the emergencies, like the one we described in this story, much less frequent. So we'll let you know when this proposal is coming up for a vote. The referendum process for voting on these types of changes isn't quite ready yet, but it will be soon. EOS Nation and some other block producers are actively working on that. Okay, now let's move on to speed round, where we take you through, in chronological order, all the major EOS news, announcements, and events, starting with the last week and going several months into the future. So starting with Changelly. On October 1st, Changelly started supporting conversions to EOS. If you're not familiar with Changelly, it's very similar to Shapeshift, where they make it quick and easy to convert one crypto into another. For example, you send Bitcoin to the Changelly address, and Changelly sends the corresponding amount of EOS to your EOS wallet. Having on-ramps like this is incredibly helpful for EOS at this stage. For example, if a newcomer wanted to purchase EOS, they could easily do this by buying some Bitcoin on Coinbase, setting up an EOS wallet through EOS Links, and then they would use Changelly to convert the Bitcoin to EOS, sending it into your Links wallet. Chintai went live about a week ago, as we reported in last week's episode. There was a bit of confusion around leasing versus staking right after this launch, where some EOS holders mistakenly chose the lease option, which meant they were spending their EOS to use CPU and net, where their intention was the opposite. They wanted to lend their EOS to others. Chintai sent out this tweet on October 5th to help clarify, and they've made some UI changes as well so that others don't make the same mistake. The EOS Peso airdrop went out on October 5th to the 2,000 accounts that registered for the airdrop. This went out on a 10-to-1 ratio. So for the 3.5 million EOS in those accounts, the total amount of EOS Pesos in the airdrop was 35 million. EOS Pesos is a currency built on top of EOS by the EOS Venezuela block producer. Their goal with the project is to provide an alternative form of currency to the fiat paper money system that's in Venezuela today, which has been experiencing hyperinflation in recent years. Telos ratified their version of the Constitution on October 5th. They call it the Telos Blockchain Network Operating Agreement, TBNOA. And it's written more like a Terms of Service Agreement, which actually makes a lot of sense. A few things to note here. The Telos version of ECAF is this concept called elected arbitrators. So they don't have ECAF, they have elected arbitrators. And if you don't specify an arbitrator in your smart contract, it defaults to one of the elected arbitrators as a group, as a forum. Arbitrators can issue orders to freeze accounts or to have block producers use their pseudo powers to perform actions as if they were the owner of the account. So in other words, Telos does have base layer arbitration, like what we were discussing earlier. They also clarify the worker proposal fund, which they have 1.5% annual inflation going towards. I'm sure you recall that currently we have 4% going to savings on the mainnet, but it's up for debate whether what we're going to do with the worker proposal fund on the mainnet. So all in all, this is a very nicely done version of the Constitution. And the Alliance Constitution sessions could definitely use this as a conversation piece as the drafting sessions get underway for the mainnet Constitution. Patreos. The airdrop was supposed to go out on October 8th, but on October 7th, Patreos announced that the airdrop has been delayed due to legal concerns. Legal concerns not related to the airdrop, more related to the structure of Patreos itself. Patreos did complete their snapshot on October 1st of all EOS accounts that had voted. So if you had your BP votes cast by the October 1st date, Patreos does have you on their list, and you will receive this airdrop once they get these legal concerns straightened out. On October 7th, Liquid EOS, which is the block producer associated with Bancor, announced a new project called EOS Bridge. The goal of this project is to better connect the Eastern Hemisphere with the Western Hemisphere, where there are currently language and cultural differences that cause some separation among the EOS community. This overlaps with some of the goals of the EOS Alliance, which has been putting forth a concerted effort to help with these cross-continental divides. So we may have to make some room up here in our diagram for EOS Bridge, assuming this gets some traction. The main deliverable of EOS Bridge is going to be these bi-weekly reports. So this looks like something that will be more of a complementary effort to the EOS Alliance rather than a competitor of it. EOS Tribe, that's TRIBE, not to be confused with the social networking dapp TRYBE. EOS Tribe put together this very comprehensive list of dev resources. So if you're a dev building something on EOS, this is definitely a page you'll want to bookmark. We have the link to this in the show notes below. Nicely done, EOS Tribe. On October 10th, the block producers voted on and passed a proposal that enables people who participated in the EOS ICO on Ethereum but who did not correctly register their EOS account during that ICO to claim their EOS tokens. So this is a big relief to a lot of EOS holders out there. This impacted nearly 20,000 accounts with a total of 3.3 million EOS tokens across those accounts. So those people can all now get access to their EOS by following the instructions described here. EOS Authority led the charge on this initiative, but it was EOS Argentina who came up with a very good idea, a good way for people to prove their ownership on the Ethereum account. And that's all described here in this article. EOS Rise is a dapp development workshop being held in Denver on October 10th and 11th. This workshop series is sponsored by EOS Tribe and OCI Partner. EOS Dublin is hosting a meetup in Portland on October 11th. Along with EOS Dublin, Cypherglass and Thomas Cox will be giving presentations there at Kell's Irish Pub. Block 1 is hosting a virtual hackathon on October 15th through the 18th. The challenge will be announced on Slack the day of the event, and the top 3 finalists will be invited to the grand finale hackathon in Cape Town, South Africa on December 7th. And they will have the winners will have their travel paid for. So if you've been unable to participate in past hackathons due to travel costs or other commitments, this is a great opportunity to participate in one of these exciting events. Telos has their next go-no-go call on October 17th. What you see here is a current snapshot of their launch checklist. They've made a lot of progress since last week, but it looks like they do have a little ways to go, so it's going to come down to the wire as to whether they finish this in time for the 17th call. So we'll be watching this one closely. EOS Ignite is hosting another web conference on October 23rd and 24th. It says this is a developer conference, so this may be more geared towards a technical audience, but we couldn't find much more info on it besides that. Bitfinex is targeting a launch of EOS Finex on November 1st. EOS Finex is a high-performance decentralized exchange built on EOS.io software. Bitfinex is planning to launch EOS Finex on a private sister chain, similar to how EOS or Ono is operating. So this won't be on the mainnet. Another big launch targeted for that same November 1st date is Warbly. Warbly is a sister chain of the EOS mainnet geared specifically for the financial industry. And then we have the November 10th and 11th hackathon in San Francisco. And the following day after that hackathon, November 12th, there's another event in San Francisco for those who want to make the most of their stay. This is the Scaling Blockchain Conference. This has a great lineup of speakers from various block producers and dapp developers and is sponsored by Airdrop Stack, EOS Sol, and EOS Blocksmith. The EOS Block Producers Summit will be held November 16th and 17th in Norway. This is part of the Crypto Finance annual event hosted by Bitspace. And of course, the grand finale hackathon hosted by Block One is on December 7th in Cape Town, South Africa. All the past hackathon winners are being flown in for this event, and they've upped the grand prize for this grand finale to $500,000. Winners of the hackathons leading up to this walked away with $100,000. And January 21st through the 25th, we have the EOS DevCon event in Tampa, Florida, which is a dapp and EOS developer-focused event. And that brings us to our featured EOS Project of the Week. Last week, we discussed the inevitable trend of EOS tokens gradually moving from the hands of investors to the hands of dapp developers, where the slice of the 1 billion EOS pie gradually transitions with more and more dapps building and holding EOS long-term, while investors take their profits and the exchange share of EOS shrinks, while the dapp share of EOS grows. This will definitely be healthy for the EOS ecosystem, as we described in our last week's episode. Being that dapps rely on the EOS block producers to provide the infrastructure that runs their business, they're going to be especially attentive to the block producers that they vote for. But if we all agree that dapp developers are the crucial stakeholders that we want to cater towards, the question then becomes, how do we best onboard dapp developers? Blockchain dapp development, creating smart contracts and understanding token dynamics, is still a niche skill that isn't widespread yet. And getting developers upskilled to the point where they can build the next generation of blockchain apps is one of the big hurdles we need to get past on the road to mass adoption. That's why we are featuring Bootcamp by EOS Dublin as this week's EOS Project of the Week. Bootcamp is a platform that enables the EOS community to collectively create learning courses geared towards upskilling future dapp developers. EOS Dublin announced Bootcamp just over 2 months ago on August 9th, and it has grown incredibly quick since then. Initially, it was mainly EOS Dublin that started contributing to it, but it didn't take long for the community to catch on to the powerful potential of this platform. Blockgenic was one of the early adopters, creating the course here on proxy voting, and EOS New York joined in and created another course on EOS app development. After only 1 week, there were already 50 registered users and hundreds more engaging with the site. Blockgenic became a regular contributor, and EOS Nation was one of the first to offer courses in a language other than English, this one in French. 2.5 weeks after the launch, and there were already hundreds of students registered, and courses began being translated into Chinese. EOS Asia added this course called EOS Inspiration, Cultural Theory, and Emergent Technology. And developers began creating their own courses, this one on full stack development. Liquid EOS added a course on creating your own hardware wallet with a Raspberry Pi. And by September 13th, just a little over a month after this was launched, Blockgenic, which should get the honorary title of MVP of EOS Bootcamp, it seems like they have contributed quite a bit. They had created enough courses to earn its own tab, its own Blockgenic tab on the EOS Bootcamp site. On September 17th, this course was added related to Node.js. And by the 19th of September, there were 12 app developer courses. Waba Network added this course on complementary currencies. And on September 28th, EOS Union uploaded a whole suite of courses on blockchain fundamentals. And as you can see here, EOS Nation has been building out a suite of courses geared mainly towards French speakers. And Ian Greg and Modi also pitched in with this course on EOS governance. EOS Arabia followed EOS Nation's lead, creating a course for people who are not native English speakers. So this full set of courses is in Arabic. Bootcamp is quickly becoming the place to go for dapp developers to learn to build on EOS. Thank you to EOS Dublin for launching this platform. Education is one of their key values, and EOS Dublin is walking the walk with this Bootcamp platform. Please pass the Bootcamp link on to anyone you know who wants to build on EOS who doesn't know where to start. Congratulations to EOS Dublin and their EOS Bootcamp platform for being featured this week's EOS Project of the Week. If you would like to nominate a great EOS project to be recognized here, please ping us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EOSWeekly. That's it for this week's episode of EOS Weekly. Please like and subscribe if you found this content informative and you want to continue to stay current on EOS as this revolution unfolds. Thanks, and we'll see you next week right here on EOS Weekly.